What's happening, everyone? James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that Shavkat Rakhmonov and Kelvin Gastelum will not be taking place on their September 16th fight. This according to Gastelum himself, who apparently has a nose injury. My man Carlos from ESPN mentioning this on his Twitter feed. Per his IG, Kelvin Gastelum has announced that he has a nose injury, will not be fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov at the September 16th card in Las Vegas. Said he requested the fight to be moved to November. Bit of a bummer here. Shavkat's had a hard time getting a fight. A lot of guys don't want to fight him. And Shavkat responded to this in his own way and said, I agreed to fight you on your territory and Mexican Independence Day in an arena full of your supporters, and it's not my problem. You can't do it now. It's your turn to accept to fight me in my territory in Abu Dhabi at UFC 294. Or did you realize this was just a bad idea now? I mean, Gastelum saying he's not ready till November. Don't think he's going to fight in October. I'm not sure the severity of the injury right now. Again, this is just coming from Gastelum himself. He did a video explaining that he is out of the fight. And there's a lot of questions about this fight anyways, because Kelvin Gastelum has not fought at 170 since, I think, 2016. I have to go look when his last fight in the weight class was. Johnny Hendricks. July 2016 was the last time Johnny Hendricks made welterweight. So there's a couple different things here. I want to see Shavkat fight, so I think... you know, I would like to see him take a matchup here. My buddy Marcus, just going to mention him. I know he suggested maybe Kevin Holland stepping in. I don't really think that makes a lot of sense for Shavkat. I think Shavkat would win that. I think Shavkat wins that no problem. He takes Kevin Holland down and he controls him. If Shavkat wants to keep active, that fight makes, you know, sense in terms of keeping him active. But in terms of the rankings, really doesn't make a ton of sense here. If we look at how things are lined up right now. Where is Holland ranked? He just beat Michael Chiesa last weekend. Very good performance, by the way. So he'll take number 15. Shavkat's ranked number 6. Unless Shavkat wants to keep active, I really don't think that fight makes a lot of sense. Another guy who did not get to fight last weekend was Stephen Thompson. I know Thompson's preferred fighting strikers. Shavkat's a bit of a striker too. That could make sense too. If Thompson wants to fly all the way down to Abu Dhabi and take that fight, I think that makes a bit of sense there too. That could be an option. The fight I've always wanted to see, and I think makes a ton of sense, and I know they've trained together, and I know Usman's been a little bit, not really committed there, and I kind of just revealed that there's Kamaru Usman. I think that's the fight to make here. Usman just lost. He doesn't have an opponent right now. We know Khamzat Chimaev's not going to be his next opponent. Now's the time to do Usman and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Let's do that fight. That fight would be great. If Usman wins, he's right back in the title picture. Shavkat's undefeated in the weight class. He is someone that has a lot of hype right now. If Usman wins that fight, he's back in the saddle. And if Rakhmonov wins, it's the best win of his career. He beats a former champion. You guys know how I feel about Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think this guy will be a UFC champion one day, and at the very least will be fighting for a title. So why not accelerate that process and give him the Usman fight? And, again, I don't know what Usman's dealing with injury-wise, but if it's in October, I think we got some time to make that fight. So we'll sort of see what happens. Let's go in like an order here as far as what I would like to see here. Shavkat fighting in November, I think that's a bit too long if he can't fight Kelvin. And right when this fight was announced, I thought that's a fight that I think Shavkat's going to win here. So Kelvin Gastelum would not be first on my list. I would personally, if we're just taking all the outside scenarios out of the equation here, I think Stephen Thompson would probably make the most sense right now. He's out of his fight. If Wonderboy doesn't want to fight him, I'm kind of the belief that, look, like, you're getting up there in age. I know it's not good to see veterans fight up and coming prospects, just especially veterans like Thompson, who've been, a good company person along these lines. But it would not surprise me if the UFC might force Thompson to fight Shavkat at this point. It could happen. They're not paying him his show money right now. We know at the time of recording this, they have not paid Thompson his show money. So that may be the next fight there. And I think rankings wise, it makes sense as opposed to Holland. Now, look, if Shavkat wants to keep active, Kevin Holland makes sense. I just don't think that goes very well for Kevin Holland. And if the idea with Kevin Holland, and you kind of saw that with the Chiesa matchup, is to build him up, that's not the fight you want to be giving Kevin Holland, because I don't think he wins that fight. I think Shavkat beats him. But yeah, there's not a lot of options here for Shavkat Rakhmonov right now. I know Bilal Muhammad's out there. I know some people will probably suggest maybe him and Bilal, but Bilal really deserves that title shot. So whenever they do end up booking Leon Edwards and Colby Covington, I think that makes some sense too. And then maybe one more option you could throw out there is Sean Brady, but again, Brady's coming off a tough loss. You could put him in there. That could be another option too. So there's a couple things in the works right now. Again, Kelvin himself, and again, Carlos to mention this as well from ESPN. This is a very much a legit thing, and Gastelum himself announcing that he's out. So I think this is something you absolutely will see off this card, which is a bummer. That's a big hit to that card. What was originally on that card, if I remember? I know it's Valentina and Alexa Grasso, but this was a big fight on it. I'm trying to remember the other fights that are on there. Alexa Grasso. Yeah, this is the co-main event. So that's a big hit to this card. Granted, it's not a pay-per-view, so it kind of saves them there. If this was a pay-per-view, that would be a huge hit. But yeah, they're going to have to move one of the fights up or add another fight here. I'm not even seeing any fights on the prelims that you could move up to the main card. So they're going to have to add another fight to this card for sure. especially if it's taking place at T-Mobile. They're going to need to add another matchup here. So, yeah, if I was the UFC matchmaker and I could put things together, my fight would be Usman Shavkat in Abu Dhabi. That's the fight to make, 100%. And then a close second place, I think, would be Stephen Thompson. But we'll see what the UFC decides to do. Like I said, they've been a little bit different with the fights with Shavkat, because I think, Jeff Neal was a great fight. I think that was a good test for him. And the fact that he finished Jeff Neal, I think speaks volumes to how good Shavkat is, in my opinion. So I would like to see a step up from that. I do think that, Thompson and Neal are kind of in the same boat, but still a Thompson fight would be interesting. He needs an opponent. And they got to remove Chimaev. Look, if Chimaev's not fighting at 170, if he's fighting at 185, take him under the rankings temporarily. Just remember where he was and then bring him back up. There's no chance that Jack Della Maddalena fights Shavkat. I don't think they want to do that. They're trying to build both of them up. I don't think that takes place. But yeah, kind of slim pickings here as far as opponents. A lot of these guys are booked up, or just it doesn't make a lot of sense here. So we'll see what they decide to do. But again, a bit of a bummer for anyone planning to go to that Las Vegas card on September 16th. No Kelvin Gastelum, no Shavkat Rakhmonov. So we'll see what the UFC decides to do. And I'll be keeping tabs as well. I actually tried to reach out to Shavkat's management for an interview and didn't get anything back. But maybe this is the reason why. Maybe they knew that he was going to be out. But yeah, Shavkat on Abu Dhabi. Let's look at that 294 card, by the way, if this fight was added. Because I think they would have to take something off, right? Of the main card? Like, what do we have right now for the main card here? Look at this. Makhachev and Oliveira, main event. Costa Chimaev has to be on the main card. Imavov and Askarov, that's one maybe you could move down. Well, yeah, no, they could still keep it on, because Elliot Mokaev is going to be on the prelims. You got Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. That's a main card fight for sure. Yeah, you add this fight on there. You add a Shavkat and Kamaru Usman, or Shavkat against someone else as this main card. That's a really stacked card. You look at some of the names on here. Ankalaev, Walker, Imavov, and Askarov. I know Imavov was on the prelims his last fight, but he's headlines cards before. Ikram's a guy that they're really high on. Costa Chimaev, great fight. Makhachev Oliveira. Again, you can't get much better than that in terms of the matchmaking there. So this would be a great addition to 294 if it does end up happening. And yeah, it looks like Shavkat's willing to wait that long. Now, I guess if Shavkat's willing to fight in October, what's a couple extra weeks fighting in November? Maybe they do end up booking the Gastelum fight, but we'll see. But again, I think no matter who Shavkat fights, I think he beats whoever he fights. And that's all those options I just mentioned. Kevin Holland, for sure he beats. I think he can beat Usman. I think it would be closer, but I think Usman would be a good fight. Bilal, again, I don't think they'll do that fight. If they did that fight, that's 50-50, but I would probably edge Shavkat there. And then Stephen Thompson, I think he'd beat as well. Just take Thompson down. We know how to beat Stephen Thompson, right? So that's the way you would want to sort of do that as far as the matchmaking goes. So for the rest of you out there, I want to know what you guys think of this injury news. Who should Shavkat fight next? Should they try and keep him on the card and get another opponent? Would that make more sense if he wants to fight sooner? It sounds like he wants to fight in Abu Dhabi, though, so maybe he does end up fighting in October. That would really be a boost to that card. I think that card, though, needs a big fight. So if it's not going to be Shavkat, it's got to be something else in terms of a matchup. And what should they do with Gastelum if he doesn't end up fighting Shavkat? Like, I think if Gastelum doesn't end up fighting Shavkat, if they don't rebook this fight, like him in a Holland fight, I think would be better, personally. Or him and Sean Brady. I think those would be better fights, but that's just my opinion. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, what could be some of the possibilities, and let me know who you think would win if they do end up fighting each other. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.